Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea reports another 73 cases of the coronavirus as people return from a long holiday. 36 cases at a military base despite a ban on soldiers traveling. President Moon Jae-in thanks the South Korean people for following the virus prevention rules during the Chuseok holiday. He also points out some positive news for the local economy, which has posted the strongest growth in the OECD. And in football, South Korean striker Son Heung-min is back from injury, scoring 2 goals to lead his Tottenham Hotspur to a lopsided win over Manchester United. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. Coming off a long holiday on this Monday, South Korea saw the number of coronavirus cases stay below 100 for a 5th straight day. But with millions of people having traveled cross-country during the Chuseok break, the authorities are on high alert for a potential spike. Choi Won-jong reports.
South Korea reported 73 new cases on Monday, staying below 100 for the 5th day in a row. Of those, 64 local transmissions and 9 from overseas. This brings South Korea's total case loads to more than 24,000. Despite the slowing trend in new cases, the nation remains on high alert for another potential wave after 5-day-long Chuseok holiday. Health authorities are concerned as sporadic cluster infections continue to occur at places like nursing homes and military bases. According to the Defense Ministry on Monday, one military base in Pocheon, Gyeonggi-do Province reported 36 new cases, including soldiers and officers. Of them, 3 tested positive on Sunday, but after testing all other soldiers, 33 were added as of Monday morning. After a thorough epidemiological investigation, new cases were reported as untraceable routes of infection. Most occurred despite restriction imposed on service members taking vacation during the Chuseok holiday. Health authorities urged people Sunday to take a test at their nearest COVID-19 testing center if there was any symptoms such as high fever or persisting cough after visiting their hometowns during the holiday. Officials added that South Korea's special quarantine period will run through October 11th, again urging the public to continue following social distancing measures. Choi Won-jong, Arirang News.
And with President Trump having contracted COVID-19, his top diplomat Mike Pompeo has postponed his planned trips to South Korea and Mongolia. The State Department says Pompeo is instead going only to Japan this week. Yoon Jung-min has more.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is traveling to Japan this week, but not South Korea and Mongolia as originally planned. The State Department said Saturday that when Pompeo goes to Tokyo for the so-called Quad meetings with Japan, Australia, and India, he will be focusing on pressing issues in the Indo-Pacific region. It added that Pompeo plans to reschedule his travel to Asia later this month. Some, however, doubt whether that'll be feasible considering Trump's health issues and with the presidential election only a few weeks away. Seoul's foreign ministry said that Minister Kang Kyung-hwa held phone talks with Pompeo on Monday morning. The ministry said Pompeo told Kang that postponing the visit was inevitable, while Kang wished the U.S. President and First Lady a speedy recovery. They also exchanged views on bilateral issues as well as issues surrounding the Korean peninsula. Earlier, Seoul's foreign ministry said that it was updated on the changes by Washington in advance. Diplomatic sources in Seoul say that while Pompeo postponed his visits to Seoul and Ulaanbaatar, it would have been difficult for him to cancel the Quad meeting in Tokyo because of its urgency and the fact that the meetings are multilateral. Seoul and Washington have had a series of diplomatic exchanges recently amid the stalled denuclearization talks with Pyongyang. Last week, Seoul's top nuclear envoy Lee Do-hoon went to the U.S., and the Allies' national security advisor spoke on the phone. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in has expressed thanks to the South Korean people for cooperating with the quarantine rules during the 5-day Chuseok holiday. In a meeting Monday with his top aides, Moon pointed out that the number of new daily infections is coming down. He also noted some positive economic news. South Korea's economic growth in the second quarter ranked #1 among the OECD countries. And in September, exports rebounded for the first time in 7 months.
우리의 방역이 세계의 모범으로 평가받는 이유는 경제에서도 이처럼 선방을 하고 있기 때문입니다. 이 같은 긍정적인 결과들은 모두 국민들의 적극적인 협조 덕분입니다. 정부는 더욱 노력을 기울여 방역에서 확실한 성과를 만들고 민생과 경제를 조속히 살릴 수 있도록 최선을 다하겠습니다.
President Moon also welcomed news that South Korea had moved up 2 notches to rank 8th in the IMD World Digital Competitiveness Ranking for 2020. He said this reflects the country's achievements in digital innovation, which the government has been focusing on. And the pandemic, of course, has people shopping more online. In fact, South Korea's online and TV shopping sales have risen to a record high for a second month in a row. According to Statistics Korea, sales made through computers and mobile devices rose in August to around $12.4 billion, an increase of 27.5% on year. The biggest increases were in delivery food, up more than 80%, and household goods, up almost 50%. In August, South Koreans apparently spent more time at home as the number of COVID-19 cases surged. Samsung continues to be the top brand of smart TVs in the United States with a market share of 32%. That's according to market research by Statista. Samsung's share is bigger than the second and third ranking companies combined, namely China's TCL and the American company Vizio. Smart TVs can connect to the internet and can be hooked up to smartphones and tablets. Industry data suggests that some 70% of all TVs in the world are smart TVs. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Chuseok, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, hope you had a good holiday. Thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here.
Well, investors over the weekend following every bit of news about the health of President Trump. Futures up at the moment. What do you see happening with stocks in the coming week?
Okay, well, the U.S. markets have been recovering after hitting a low on September 23rd, but it fell slightly on Friday. Now, that wasn't necessarily because of President Trump, because President Trump's hospitalization news made the news after the markets closed. So the lowering of the market on Friday was due more to the lack of agreement on stimulus package and the general concerns about how badly the coronavirus is going in the United States. But there has been more and more focus on tech stocks. 80% of fund managers surveyed last month by Bank of America said that buying technology stock was the market's most crowded trade. And the 5 largest U.S. tech companies, Google parent Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft now account for 25% of S&P 500's market capitalization, according to Oxford Economics. So the current stock market is basically driven by tech stocks. Now, other interesting news about the stock market that came out, which may be affecting the market, was that the Biden economic plan does involve higher taxes, basically undoing the Trump tax cuts that seem to have some analysts concerned, but also Moody's Analytics and Oxford Economics has published reports saying that economic growth for the United States would do better under Biden rather than Trump. So that might be affecting some of the market as well. And the other markets, they seem to be holding off. All the European markets as well as Asian markets are currently mixed. They seem to be waiting to see what's going on with the United States with President Trump, and this is probably going to continue until the U.S. elections.
Well, now, Korean stocks strongly higher today after the long holiday. Retail investors selling the Kospi today, though. What's the story in the Korean markets?
Okay, well, the Korean analysts, they seem to be looking at the U.S. stimulus package as well. Right now, because Trump is falling behind Biden and Trump is hospitalized, the Korean analysts are saying that it is more likely that the United States will agree on a stimulus package. Democrats have already passed a stimulus bill worth $2.2 trillion in the House, but the Republican-dominated Senate was unwilling to pass such bill with such high amount But because President Trump is now so far behind, and because President Trump has caught coronavirus himself, it may be that the stimulus, the Republicans may agree to a stimulus package with such a high spending bill on it. And then Korean market has also been affected by good news on exports. It was up 7.7% over last year. It is down 4.0% if you calculate it on working day basis, because we had no Chuseok holidays this year compared to Chuseok falling in mid-September last year. But from the government analysis, that last year we had an unusually productive exports on a daily basis. So even though it fell 4.0% on daily basis, it actually is a very good number. We did recover to a pre-coronavirus export level, $48 billion for the month and $20.9 billion per day. So this is a slight sunshine in the tunnel. Automobiles did especially well. It went up by 23.2%.
Well, we'll have more data out this week on consumer prices, also projected earnings for the third quarter from Samsung, LG. What's on your radar this week, Professor?
Okay, well, there isn't that many interesting statistics coming out this week, either domestically or foreign. Other than the data that you mentioned, the other Korean statistic of interest is August balance of payments, the current account and the capital account. But because we know the trade account more or less already, we know that the big news from that balance of payments, which is that current account will be in surplus. And then for foreign statistics or information, the most interesting seems to be the minutes of the U.S. Fed FOMC meeting that they had last month. And we'll see exactly how the FOMC members and the Fed evaluate the current state of U.S. and global economy.
Indeed. We'll have to discuss that later this week. Thanks so much, Professor Yang, for sharing your insights today.
Thank you.
The agency managing the K-pop superstars BTS is going public on the local stock market next week. And ahead of that, they're taking bids from retail investors who want to buy shares. Within 2 hours of opening this morning, Big Hit Entertainment had attracted bids worth more than $3.4 billion US. For retail investors, the company's offering more than 1.4 million shares, valued at around $165.3 million. Institutional investors were able to subscribe last month. Big Hit is seen as one of this year's 3 big IPOs, another of which was the recent record-breaking debut of Kakao Games. In football, Tottenham Hotspur's South Korean forward Son Heung-min returned from a hamstring injury earlier than expected on Sunday and did so with a bang. He found the back of the net twice and provided 1 assist in Spurs' thrashing of Manchester United at Old Trafford. Lee Seung-jae has this story.
All he needed was a week of rest. Son Heung-min returned to action for Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday following a hamstring injury that many assumed would see him sidelined for a number of weeks. Taking on Manchester United, Son scored twice in the first half, once in the 7th minute and again in the 37th minute. Son also provided an assist for Harry Kane to slot home in the 30th minute to help Tottenham thrash Manchester United 6-1 at Old Trafford. The resounding victory gives Spurs their second win of the EPL season. They have 7 points from 4 matches, putting Spurs in 6th place. After his 4-goal performance against Southampton last month, Son's brace bumps him to 6 goals so far this season, sharing the top of the EPL's top scorer list with Everton's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The 2-goal performance also set a new milestone for the South Korean international. During his 5 seasons in Germany's Bundesliga, Son scored 41 league goals in 135 matches. Since arriving in England, Son has 59 EPL goals in 164 matches, bringing his total league goal tally to 100. Not only does he become the highest-scoring South Korean footballer to play in Europe, but he also surpasses South Korean legend Cha Bum-gun, who scored 98 goals in 308 matches in the Bundesliga in the 1970s and 80s. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.